So to unpack this now further, political analyst Thobani Zikalala now joins us via video link to unpack the recent developments within the ANC and its structures. Thobani, good afternoon, and thanks for your time with us here on the SABC at this hour.
Good afternoon and greetings to your viewers.
Let's get your reaction on the back of that briefing. Its efficacy, really what came to the fore. What are you observing at this front, based on the announcement, obviously, from the former president, Jacob Zuma, not campaigning for the ANC, and the sentiments echoed from what was established during this media briefing?
Of course, I think the announcement in the weekend by former President Jacob Zuma has shaken the political landscape in the country and maybe revived it a bit in terms of, because there was almost a bit of a lull and things happening in that way. But of course, also if you look at the leadership of the ANC, the leadership of the alliance, it's decisive, what to call way of saying let's have a mass press conference of all its mass democratic movement structures indicates a movement shaken. It's movement that indicates a movement that is not taking lightly the announcement by its former president and one of the key stalwarts of the liberation struggle of the ANC. And I think for me, that's what I picked up. Of course, I also, from the demeanor of the provincial secretary and some of his leadership, you can already see that this is like eggshells. The terrain they are negotiating or moving on is not a terrain that is expected to be moving on so soon. So of course they seem a bit shaken, they seem a bit unsure about what to say and not to say. They seem very guarded because also they don't want to say wrong things, because you know the influence of the President Jacob Zuma, that he's unlike any just ordinary member, ordinary leader of the ANC. He's a leader that, of course, exerts some serious influence in the country and especially in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Well,
thank you for those sentiments, because, you know, it was alluded to that it's the first time a former president has performed such an action. And, you know, some are questioning whether this move at this point will give him more political legitimacy. How would you weigh in on that? Also, looking at the timing, I mean, we're just a few months away from elections. What do you think that's also going to do in terms of, you know, mobilization and the impact on the political landscape going forward?
I think the impact will be huge. It remains to see how big it's going to be, but it will be very big. Also, the idea that it is, for some people, the decision taken by Jacob Zuma is almost long overdue. If you look at the troubles that he has faced with the ANC and, of course, with the current leadership, the troubles that he has faced since maybe since around 2005, many people have long been calling for him to make a decisive decision and not campaign for the ANC. We know that the ANC has continuously been asking him to be part of those who lead its campaigns because, again, of his influence. And I think it will be very naive for anyone, whether in the ANC or outside of the ANC, to undermine the impacts this will have on the elections. If you look in terms of the ANC, ANC improvement, especially in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, when Jacob Zuma became the president of the party in 2007, you look at the impact that had on the 2009 elections and the subsequent elections after that. And also you look at when he left the seat of power, that what that had in the political impact it had on the numbers of the ANC. You can see this is a man like no other. I mean, Jacob Zuma is maybe the most popular leader of the ANC after your Nelson Mandela and Chris Hani. There is no one currently who leads the ANC and who has led the ANC around the times of Jacob Zuma that is as popular as Jacob Zuma. I mean, that cannot be denied, and that will be seen by the impact it had. Of course, that impact may not be too big for many to realize it's a big impact, but an impact of at least 5% and above is a big impact on the elections, because currently the ANC does not enjoy, if you look at the last 2021 local government election, the ANC does not enjoy a majority vote in the ANC. The ANC sits at around 49% in the country. That alone tells you that any movement in terms of its leadership and in any instability in the ANC will cause more problems, as we have seen in the past.
Well, so speaking of which, I mean, we also need to explore his own historical ties to the party. And, you know, that journey, of course, that he has undertaken, both positively and negatively. But also, I just want to speak to the representation of the lack thereof of the representation for KZN in the top 7. And, you know, what dynamic and problem that's posed for the party itself as we edge closer to elections, given what's unfolding now?
First, I think if we look at the historical ties of Jacob Zuma to the party, I mean, all his adult life up until now, Jacob Zuma, what he knows is the ANC, what he has been in the ANC. That, of course, will have an impact on his political legacy. And I think he's trying so hard to try and balance his critique for the ANC and he's looking for an alternative party vis-a-vis preserving his legacy in the ANC and in society. With regards to the representation of the ANC in the top 7, of course, it's something that has to be looked at and has to be a concern because, again, it looks at the influence of a big province like KwaZulu-Natal. But again, one has to be reminded that the ANC, of course, is not a federal organization. It's also not a regional organization where it's a must that particular provinces must be represented. The fact that in the NEC of the ANC, there's a representation of the ANC is also a good reflection in terms of what the ANC is. But on the other part, the troubles of the ANC not being in top 7 may not be on the lack of leadership which is capable to be in that position. It also speaks to the unity and the stability of the province going to the recent conferences of the ANC, where the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal almost went as divided with many candidates. And that meant that it could not be able to to exert its influence as one of the biggest provinces in KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, that reflects badly on its stability. But of course, this is the nature of politics. You influence and you get influenced. You contest, you lose. You contest, you win. That's how politics are.
Well, that is the chess game, of course, that's happening. And it's obviously becoming more intense with the moves coming to the fore as we edge closer to elections. Some of the view that it's a personal gripe. There's some personal issues and grievances. How would you comment on that and how it would impact the incumbent leader's legacy going forward? What do you think his extent in the new party then is also going to entail, given his age, given, some of the legal woes that he's also facing? I mean, help us understand those dynamics as well.
I think the first thing will be, someone once said, the political is personal and the personal is political. It's very difficult to divide or to distinguish between the two lines because the lines are always blurred between the personal and the political. And that is must always something that we look into. Of course, if you look at President Jacob Zuma and the age that he's at, he may not be as decisive, his impact may not be as decisive or as impactful as a leader of the party. But his political image and his political influence and what it means for other people may give the new party some political legitimacy around with the electorate. And there may be people who move and vote for the party or support the party on the basis of it being associated and being campaigned for by President Jacob Zuma. This is the same reason why, by the way, the African National Congress, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal, has always asked President Jacob Zuma to lead and be the face of one of its campaigns, because of the influence he enjoys outside of how old he is and how senior he is. And that, for me, is something to look at. So I would not want to dismiss Jacob Zuma on the basis of his age, but the influence that he may have. But again, we must not over-exaggerate that, because there will still need to be a proper organization being built by the party to be able to support the image and the political legitimacy that is being given by Jacob Zuma. Again, Africa as a whole, maybe as a last point, Africa as a whole has a problem of politics of personalities, which sometimes can be good, sometimes can be bad, because once the politics of personalities are not managed properly, there is not a proper organization around them, they become problematic. And I think that's what the party must be able to look at. And maybe that's what the African National Congress in itself may be facing, of how it has managed its politics of its personalities.
Oh, you raised a good point about personality politics. I even want to now look at the concerns going forward, whether there are concerns about other members that are set to perhaps follow suit. And then if we look at previous actions from previous members, including the most recent, we saw Mavuso Msimang leaving and then obviously withdrawing that resignation. How would you comment on that and also weigh in on the dynamic unfolding on that front?
I think the case of Mavuso Msimang is almost different to the case of President Jacob Zuma. The influence, the seniority, the impact and the leadership and the position Jacob Zuma occupies may be different to what Mavuso Msimangu may occupy. But of course, these are both veterans of the struggle. Mavuso Msimangu being a veteran of the 26th detachment of the Mkhonto Wesizwe, I'm doing of the ANC. For me, the concern I have is on what we could call a political backbone of people like Mavuso Msimangu, when they are able to be persuaded easily. Of course, it will not be easy for them to leave the ANC because ANC is all they know. But for me, I have a problem when you make one decision, you make a long critique. Before such issues are be resolved, there's a change of heart. Because then the question should be, what convinced you otherwise? Because you have read a serious critique on the leadership of the party, on the state of the party. Of course, there must be some commitment or there's some change that you see other than words, because ANC being anti-corruption has been said all the time. ANC dealing with its maladministration of the state has been something that is always said. So it's very puzzling for me when someone like Mavuso Msimangu gets convinced by mere words when he has read some strong critique of the party. But again, it speaks to the idea of how many people cannot see their lives outside of the ANC, how their whole lives and all livelihoods and their political standing in society is about the ANC, because that's all they have known all their lives. So even their social relevance on who they are depends on their relationship with the ANC. And this is what may influence many of them to either stay or leave the ANC because of the concerns about their social relevance and their stature in society.
Well, Thobani, we're obviously monitoring developments from here on too, but we'll leave the conversation there for now. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC at this hour. Thobani Zikalala joining us via video link, just unpacking some of the recent developments that occurred in the ANC, as well as on the back of the ANC KZN provincial briefing that took place just a little bit earlier on.